that we talk about the second advent, right? You can clearly see that God was preparing a time for Jesus, and that amazingly, right after Jesus, very similar time periods get played out, and here we are. And this, if you count up the years, 400, 400, 120, 400, 210, 400, from the time of Jesus, you get around 1930, the year 1930. If you look at Martin Luther, who did a very defiant, amazing act, right? He put the 95 Theses on the door, and he had a very intense, actually his life story is, wow, what an amazing guy. Took a lot of heat from a lot of people. A lot of people wanted to kill him. When he did that, if you count 400 years after when Martin Luther did the 95 Theses, it gets to the year 1917. And so, according to the parallels of history, the second advent will appear between the year 1917 and 1930. And we believe that, there's Bible verses that point to this, the second coming will come from the east, rising like the sun from the east. And, out of all the Eastern Asian countries, the most Christian one by far is Korea. Japanese is it's kind of mixed, right? And in some sense, the unified element is kind of secular. And you have China and Korea at that time, very Christian. And in Korea, there was many prophecies, many prophecies that God's truth and God's word would come to Korea. So there's many angles to that, which is why we believe Messiah comes from Korea. Now, what I want to harp on is not just the second coming, but the people surrounding the second coming. People surrounding the second coming. Think about it. Here's Moses, right? Sorry, Moses. For a long time, over 1,000 years, the Israelites were commanded by the law. They were judged by the law. And all the Pharisees taught about the law, the law, the law. Everything was the law. And when Jesus came, there's a famous scripture that says, look, it's not about the law anymore. It's about following me. How do you do the work of God? Follow in whom God has sent. Follow this. Follow me. The scriptures point to me. It's not about law anymore. That was a hard pill to swallow for people who had been following the law for 1,600 years or 1,000 years. How do you follow something for 1,000 years and then all of a sudden you got to switch over? Oh, never mind, it's not the law anymore. If any person during this part of history, if any person had said, hey, y'all, it's not about the law anymore, you would have been a blasphemer. It's about the law. My Bible says it's the law. That's why when Jesus comes around and says, it's not about the law anymore, guys, it's about recognizing me, following and having faith in me, that is why they called him a blasphemer. They called him a heretic because they would have been right. If anybody in this time period said something similar, you're a blasphemer, get away, my Bible says the law. Jesus came and said, not anymore. And so what we have to realize about these people right here, which is also now us, right? The people around Jesus' time, their mission changed. Their mission was the law, the law, the law, the law, the law. Ding! Little pinprick. No longer the law. Recognition. Not just belief and following the law, but recognition of the one whom God has sent. That's fascinating, right? To me, it's like, wow, no wonder they had a hard time. No wonder. Law. It has to change to recognition. And the people of this time thought, Elijah's coming on a big chariot, right? And even there's Old Testament prophecy that says Jesus will come on a cloud. So they're waiting for a big chariot. They're waiting for a big cloud with big Jesus on the top of a cloud. They're waiting for miracles and signs. But what they failed to understand was, remember my imaginary responsibility bell? Ding, 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 ding. What they failed to realize is when you're expecting all these signs and obviousness from the Messiah, you're basically saying, it's not my responsibility to recognize the Messiah. The Messiah is going to come get me. The Messiah is going to come seek me out because I'm a good follower of the law. And likewise, after Jesus, it was the gospel of Jesus. The gospel, just to be very clear, in Divine Principle, we affirm the basic pillars of the gospel. We are not teaching a new gospel. We are not denying the gospel. The gospel is basically these 5 points, if I can remember them, because I couldn't find my notes. I'm just memorized this. 5 points. Jesus was born sinless. So these are the 5 points we affirm that is the gospel. Jesus was born sinless. His death on the cross and his shed blood atones for sin. He opened the channel of regeneration. Spiritual salvation is what we call it. And there's one other, and then the 5th one is he's coming again. That's the gospel. But the last one is he's coming again. That's like kind of the emphasis. He's coming again. But it's kind of interesting, like at some point for that gospel to be true, he's coming again needs to flip over to he's here. It needs to, or else that gospel is not true. He's coming again. And I've really had a lot of, it's amazing, I really empathize for people. So 2,000 years is you're judged by the gospel. Do you believe that Jesus was sinless? Do you believe that his death on the cross atones for sin? Right? Do you believe in rebirth and spiritual salvation? You were judged by the gospel. But similarly, when this time comes, it is no longer you are judged by the gospel, but you are judged by recognizing the second coming. Your mission changes, flips over, just like these people did. And it's very hard to do that. Because imagine, the promise of he's coming again. I've had a lot of sympathy in my heart for this recently. He's coming again. It's such a comforting idea. It's a comforting thought. It has pulled Christians through immeasurable suffering. Immeasurable suffering. Burned at the stake and martyrdom and death and just incredible stories that'll just make you weep. And it has strengthened Christianity. He's coming again. It's a powerful promise that keeps you going. But at some point, we have to not make the same mistake and say, well, he's coming again, but he's coming to find me. And because I'm a good Christian, he'll find me wherever I'm at. He'll come get me. He'll make it obvious. But really, we have to take, ding, 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 ownership and a sense of responsibility that it is our job to recognize. What if the people at Jesus' time clearly understood it was their responsibility to recognize Jesus? They understood it is our generation, not the generation before. They were judged by the law, but it is our generation that must actively pray hard to know and seek out and recognize Jesus. What if they had had that mentality? Incredible, different outcome, I think. The Messiah has to come in a contemporary time period. Whenever we depict the idea of a Messiah coming back, he's still got his sandals on from 2,000 years ago, right? He never changed his pair of shoes. He's still got his sandals. He's still got his white robe. But the Messiah, the first time around, came in the contemporary time period. He dressed like they dressed. He spoke like the people around him spoke. I bet you this definitely happened. We have to assume this definitely happened. People would probably bump up into Jesus in the marketplace, and go, "Oh, excuse me, sir." Just bump right up into Jesus, right? That happened. Because physically and on the exterior, Jesus looked like everybody else. I bet you somebody even asked Jesus for directions, "Hey, excuse me, sir, where's the road to Emmaus? Where's Galilee?" And Jesus went, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, go 3 blocks that way and turn right, and you will arrive, my son." Maybe he said it like that, I don't know. And the guy goes, "Yeah, thanks. I got it, thank you." That's nothing. What a weird guy that was, man. People bumped up into Jesus and asked him directions and asked him where the supermarket was and talked to him and didn't recognize. Because on the exterior, he was the same as everybody else in the contemporary time period. So one of the most incredible lessons is that real discernment in life, it comes from your exercising your muscle for spiritual discernment. It's not a physical eye thing. Prophecies about the second coming say that he will be rejected, and then he will be victorious. He will be first rejected and then be victorious. If he comes out of a great golden cloud, I think it would be pretty hard to reject somebody like that, right? It wouldn't be so easy to reject a Messiah like that. So I want to emphasize that for people, it's been judged by the gospel, which we affirm. But at some point, it's our duty to change from judged by the gospel to judged by spiritual recognition of the Messiah. It's an important thing. And when Father was asked, this is kind of incredible, right to this point. Father was on trial. I think it might have been Danbury or something. And the judge or the prosecutor asked him, probably in an attempt to make him look bad or, pointed questions to make you look a little off. He said, "Reverend Moon, are you the second coming?" What he responded was genius. Pure genius. He said, "The second coming is not a matter of proclamation, but one of recognition." That was the response. Anyone can just proclaim such a thing. The gig is on you, sir. The gig is on you, sir, and each one of us to recognize. And doesn't that echoes so perfectly what Jesus said. People asked Jesus, "Are you the one?" Right? "Are you the Messiah?" And remember what Jesus said when he was asked that in a court, very similarly? He said, "As you said it." It's not going to do it for someone to just go around proclaiming it. It has to be our gig to know for sure, to recognize. It's very selfish to think that, it's the Messiah's job to come find me because I've been good. I've been a good boy. He's going to find me. And that's not the case. It's not how it happened the first time around. It's not how it's happening now. So it's not enough to just proclaim it. I want to encourage each and every one of you, whether you've been born in the movement or not, you have to ask this question. Do I really recognize this? That's your duty, your prayer. I'm going to follow suit with Father, and I'm not going to just, listen to me because I proclaim it. Even though I do proclaim it. Even though I do. And I believe in it 100%. I say study Jesus' life is a good thing that can give you perspective on Father's life. It's an amazing experience, guys. If you haven't read a lot about Jesus' life, that is something really special. A very good spiritual journey. So this is the time we take responsibility. I really believe, you know what's funny is people all over of every walk of life that I've met in my church and guests and stuff, there's a general feeling of we're coming upon a new era. I met this person who was really into stars and astrology, right? And she's like, you realize that 6 different planets are in retrograde right now. She's like, whoa, man, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, something special's in the air, I'm just kind of like trying to get through the conversation. And she's like, yeah, you better watch out. If you think it'll happen. That's what she said. And then I was talking to a Christian guest in my church, and I very, very plainly said, we're in the last days. I think it's quite plain to see that at this point, post-corona and everything. We're in the last days. And what's amazing is she totally agreed. And then I flip on the Christian radio, and I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't believe it. There was a DJ on the Christian radio saying, yeah, I'm certain we're in the last days and the Messiah has already been born. We just don't know who it is yet. This is mainline Christian radio, not a weird local channel. Mainline national Christian radio. People feel that we are upon a new era. People feel that we're at that cliff, at the edge of that second line. We're about to go into a new era. And it is my personal conviction that the new era, whatever you want to call it, I kind of call it the crystal age. I almost wanted to call this whole lecture the crystal age. That's just my word for it. It kind of sounds hippie, I know, weird. The new era. But I really believe the new era is directly tied to a people, the era of taking personal responsibility. Satan can dominate and take this world down into darkness if the world decides it just doesn't want responsibility for its problems. If each one of us says, I'm not going to clean up my marriage, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to take responsibility. But if each person took that championship energy of true parents, I am a tribal Messiah. Is that a message of empowerment or what? That's a message of empowerment. You go. When I hear the word Messiah, I hear the echoes of Martin Luther. I hear the echoes, direct connection to God. If you're a Messiah and you don't have a direct open phone line with God, then you're not doing the gig, It's like your gig now is to open that phone line with God. Communicate directly and find your mission and do it with passion. And take ownership. I really believe, when you read our family pledge in our movement, each thing begins with owner, right? It's almost like Father was tricking us into having to repeat the word ownership over and over and over again. Because the lack of taking ownership over your life will leave you stuck. Remember lecture number 1. You'll be Domino's pizza guy. You won't be able to restore much doing it that way. So I really believe the new consciousness, the new fulfillment of our movement's goals and the liberation of mankind can only happen when a massive click of personal conviction and personal responsibility comes into play. Of course, with faith in God, and God's always doing 95%. So I hope that this lectures kind of give you a window into our teaching of our faith and gives you something to pray on. Some BC told me this one time. I thought it was so impressive. And she said, I think some of the young folks in our movement leave the movement, but they don't really understand what they're leaving. So if anything, I want to teach this material so that we have a clear choice. Remember, I think I gave you this nugget in the very beginning. With awareness comes choice. Now that you're aware of this awesome truth that we teach, that we have answers for why Jesus waited so long to come. We have answers for why God put evil in the world, which he didn't. It was us. We have answers for these questions. That you can take that and take it very seriously to think, maybe there's something to this. Maybe the person who prayed over this and created this content is more than just another saintly person. There's something different here. And I hope that that's what you pray on. When I was trying to think about what to say in this conclusion over the last 2 weeks, this came into my mind. I'll share this with you. In the world today, I can't imagine that there was any more confusing of a time to live than now. Like, people don't even know what real science is at this moment. Like, I don't know, are viruses contagious? I don't know. It's just like total confusion, right? Am I right? Yes. Total confusion. Spiritually, but also on just, is the sky blue kind of stuff. It's like total confusion. Because you can find a news anchor to support any opinion out there. You can find a scientist, an expert, to support any opinion out there. Oh yeah, well you have 10 experts that say that. Well, I found on Google 10 experts that say the opposite. We're in the midst of total confusion. We have people being vilified on the news. We have people being upheld and glorified in the news. We have people telling us that they have the answers to poverty. They have the answers to this problem or racism or that problem. Social justice movements. To me, it's just an overwhelming barrage. But the last days is exactly that. Because the last days in divine principle is Satan's world up at the top ruling, and God's world has been kind of suppressed, and at some point they cross. And we are right here in the confusion. What you're seeing is the crossing point of just mass confusion. All the ideas are in the air. All the ideas are in the air. And what I wanted to say was this. For me, the ultimate smell test, you know what that means? The smell test. Is this milk bad? I don't know. Yeah, it's bad. The ultimate test, the ultimate bellwether, the ultimate thing that I found to decipher between who's really a man and woman of God and who's not. Because we have a lot of people preaching at us all the time. Different religions, different politicians, different news anchors. And I have to say, the news is like preachy now, right? Preachy news people. Preaching, like if you don't recycle, you're a bad person. You're hurting the earth. And it's almost like, who made you my priest to tell me what's going to send me to hell or heaven, right? All this preachiness on what's true, what makes you good, what makes you bad. But I'll tell you this. What I found is the ultimate test by who is a good person, the ultimate differentiation between a person of God and a person of Satan is, can that person pray with tears for humanity? I thoroughly believe Satan cannot do that. He can spin lies to you. He can tell you some convincing things. He can show you data. He can give you explanations. But he cannot bring his heart to pray with tears for humanity. And that is what Reverend Moon and his wife did constantly in front of us at speeches all the time, weeping streams of tears for God's world to be restored. How can a person who is a liar, how can a person who is selling you some thing, how can a satanic type person do that? You can't. I'm convinced you can't. Not even the best actor in the world, not even Denzel Washington or whoever the best actor is in the world, not even the best actor in the world could do that. Could stand up there in front of a stadium of people and weep streams of tears praying for God's heart to be liberated. To me, that's the ultimate smell test. This has to be a man of God. Real man of God. Reverend Moon and his wife. And that really, we talked about in the last lecture, that's the Hungnam prayer, the spirit of the movement. I will not be defeated by my suffering. I will never pray from weakness. How could I? Because I only want to comfort God's heart. And God is the only one suffering. How can you say you care about social justice if you don't care about justice for God? God's gone through more than anyone else, by far. Wouldn't you agree? How can you say you care about any problem if you don't care about the suffering of God? And that's the brilliant. So even Father said, no one has really suffered injustice but God. That's how huge the difference is. And so I pray that this teaching can inspire you at least to open the door and pray hard about it and seek some answers. And then I also hope that regardless of your degree of faith or churchiness, God can whisper into your ear exactly what your mission should be and something that you're passionate and that you love to do and that you go with it. That you go with it. That's my hope for you. That's my hope for you. I really believe that Satan cannot pull that kind of trickery off. Only a man of God could pray with that kind of heart. Only a man of real anointing. That is my opinion. So it's our job now. We were just talking. It's our job. Tribal Messiahs. That's our title. But now we get to live it and become it, which means a lot of work, and a lot of internal victories need to be had. Don't give up hope. We can learn from the past. It was right after Jesus died, his disciples were very low-spirited. So it's actually our job now to pick our spirits up. And you have an amazing community in Colorado here. Pastor Mike and Adonia. Don't take them for granted. And it's not every day this thing kind of happens. Not every day. So you have an amazing chance to build something great together. If I could deal with the altitude, I'd be here more often. I would. So anyway, thank you so much, guys. That's my brief kind of conclusion statement. Do you have any thoughts or inspirations or questions that you would like to bounce around or offer? Yeah.
This idea of the last days, it's been difficult for me in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this moment like a year ago where just watching science, things about planets on YouTube. I'm interested. And I heard for the first time someone who's really scientifically minded express belief in the last days, just based on trajectory of the planet and so on. And that's when it hit home for me, wow, this is not something just we believe. It's not just something that Christians believe, but it's I think there's general kind of awareness of this concept of wow, we live in interesting times right now.
Mm-hmm. I believe that too. Yes, go ahead.
There's the doomsday clock, and we're at 2 weeks as well.
Actually, I don't know if the younger people here know what the doomsday clock is. If you don't, you can elaborate a bit more. It's this theoretical construct, like a panel of people that come together in almost like this UN fashion, and they decide how close we are to midnight, with midnight being the end of the world, right? And so the peak of the Cold War, I don't know, we were like 3 or 4 minutes to 12. 2 minutes to 12 means that there's this consensus among smart people that like, wow, we're close to the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was this thing too with the Aztec calendar. I was studying that when I was a kid in university and it started 2012.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know, 2013 is Foundation Day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Aztecs had some kind of intuition about things, you know?
Somebody joked, there was a meme that said the Mayans got their 1 and 2 mixed up. 2012 should have been 2021. That was really when things, really haywire, right? These last couple of years. Yeah, Satan's not going to give up his world easily. I don't think so. So what we, just like Jacob wrestling the angel or something, right? Like, are we just going to just float in and just, okay, thanks, Satan, you gave us the keys? I don't think so. I think what we're seeing in a spiritual way, if you want to go really spiritual here, I think what we're seeing is sort of an external kind of result of a massive spiritual clash, a massive spiritual changing of the guards. My hope is, my belief is that it's an optimistic one, that it's a shakeup. And actually, shakeups are the perfect time to implant a new set of values. And actually, that's really, two parents really didn't come here to just rehash and revive the old Judeo-Christian values. They really wanted new set of values, new understanding of religion, new understanding of values, which is that man and woman are paramount and so crucial and important. This teaching is all about inspiring men and women to deepen the bonds of love. Because if they did, then societies would be working and peaceful again. So much of our problems come from the dysfunction and the brokenness between men and women. So if our movement does nothing else but deepen the bonds of love between men and women, we'll have succeeded something. There needs to be an understanding that God has his deepest desire is to create a lineage and a family that's holy all over the world. And to attend, so let me ask you this, praising and worshiping and praying, that's all good. But what if one day you stumbled upon, you found out God's deepest and greatest desire. And then you found out, I cannot fulfill that deepest desire without my spouse. That's an incredibly new understanding of how to attend God. And it's not just us praying and worshiping and getting saved. It's a whole new, so to just go back into Judeo-Christian values is not enough. We need that's kind of reached its expiration date, to be honest. We need a new understanding, a deeper bond of love in the family, deeper patriotism, deeper sacrificial love from each person. So I really believe this teaching can inspire that to happen if we get the word out.
I kind of feel like the place where we're at right now is when we really need to go into True Father's more recent words, because Old Testament, New Testament, and then and True Parents have come. I think definitely we're still in the last days, but also True Father's already passed away, Mother's going to pass away soon. So it's like, are we just going to continue to say that we're in the last day? Like, how do we know what to do from this point? Because we're not in the chart anymore at a certain point. So I think we really have to examine what True Parents were telling us at a deep level, especially about ownership and tribal messiahship, and like telling us. Yeah, I mean, I have to reflect on it because right now I haven't thought about this in a while. But I think to continue to be relevant, I feel like there's almost got to be another little section at the end of the Divine Principle lecture, okay, now this is kind of what the new way forward looks like, especially for unificationists.
Yeah, we don't want to preach that it's the last days forever and ever. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, there needs to be a new definition, a new values, a new era, a new true parents culture, heavenly culture being built. The reason I like to bring up the last days with my Christian friends and myself is it helps me feel comfort in like, oh, there's this craziness that's happening for a reason, kind of like what Christian was saying. It's not, oh no, the world's over, oh no, we're going to self-destruct. It's like, wait, hold on, guys. There was a lot of anticipation that this time would come. Maybe we're on track, in a sense. So that's where I gain comfort. I don't think it should last forever or too long, or we shouldn't even get hung up in it too much. We should get down to the ground again and say, how do I fulfill what God wants me to fulfill?
Because it's the intersection, so
Yeah.
people have got to be doing the building of God's kingdom.
Right.
So even though we're still in the last days, it's still confusing, but what does that look like in practicality now that we can be doing to help us get through
Yeah.
the last days?
But I think it's a time of clarification for the world, when all the old values are not working, all the old systems are not working, they're all coming to an end, crashing spectacularly. People are depressed, people don't even know who they are, what they are. Am I a man, am I a woman? I don't know. It's getting to the depth of confusion that's even your own personal identity, you don't even know what you are. And I think this is like washing the old laundry. All the crap is coming out. And it's a time now where if we who know the principles somewhat can live a life that people can see is peaceful and beautiful and creates good fruit, we don't even have to talk too much. People will come and look and say, hey, how come you're so happy over there? You know what's going on down there? So maybe just what we need to do is to keep the focus on true parents, what they've taught us, and put it into action. And all this chaos, little by little, will just right itself, I guess. But it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, I always caution my church to not get too caught up in the macro view of things. Oh, we're in the last days. That means this, and that means that, and that means I'm Cain and you're Abel, and that means this and that. And it's like, oh God, you got to get back down to reality and say, I want to pray God and figure out, listen for God and be obedient to that. And he says, I need to be a comedian. Sounds weird. My central figure may not understand it, but I'm pretty sure I'm hearing God tell me this. And then you got to go do it, right? Then you got to do it. No pressure. Always has to come down to that. You have to love, in a time of chaos, you have to love the truth. The Bible says if you don't love the truth, you love death, basically. You're going to get confused and you're going to be wiped out by all this noise. So don't get wiped out by the noise. Don't get your head in the theological cloud of the last days. You got to get back down, support Pastor Mike and Adonia every day. Go find your passion and offer it to God. Right? It's all about that. Just building that heavenly culture. Yeah, in a way, Mother just cleared it up. She just made it so simple. We need a heavenly culture and a holy people. Yes, exactly. It's so true. I was reading some really intellectual dude, and it was really awesome stuff. He's a Christian guy, and I'll just paraphrase it and say his idea of a solution is, in order to topple a tyrannical, evil world, what you need to have is a parallel society. A parallel society that helps each other out. That I buy from your businesses, you buy from my businesses. We go to each other's schools. We create schools and we educate our kids. Not like run away to the hillside, but in parallel. So his whole solution was parallel society. And eventually, this stuff that's corrupted and doesn't work falls away, and the parallel society is strong because it's built on God. And when Keisha and I were reading this super heavy article, because she's a research genius and kind of drags me along and reads along, she just stopped me. She almost like put her hand on me or something. She's like, that's exactly what Mother wants. A holy community. A parallel society. That's what. So anyway, in a way, it's like so simple. It's just, Mother kind of cleared it up. Create a holy community.
It reminds me of something advertise so much, but like putting so much support into North Korea, because sooner or later that communism is going to topple there because it just can't sustain itself. And so what's going to be left when that falls? If your brother wasn't doing anything, nothing.
Right.
But there's like already support there. There's already something lovely and beautiful there. When that happens, so
Right.
that it'd be the most automatic thing to reunite
Right.
South Korea.
Right. Genius. Right. Like we sit here and we go, I could sit up here for 5 more hours and say, secular music is so evil and secular public schools are so bad. It's like, get off the couch and make a school, make a record label. Do it. You know, I feel so sad. I feel so sad when I see like good little kids, you know, innocent kids, you know, but the only music they have available around them is pretty much garbage. I'm thinking, why isn't there a unificationist radio station by now playing our music 24/7? You know, that's one of my big dreams. I want to be a record label exec and just pay younger second gens to kill it, do good stuff. You know, so why is it we need every facet of society needs to be kind of recreated and done in parallel, and then there will be something strong. And Adonia said it brilliantly. When the old stuff proves that it doesn't work and it topples, there's something there. And people can flock to that. People can go, wow, that was really bad. Let me try your school now. Or maybe I can get signed on your label because your label doesn't make me talk about all this sinful stuff. Man, so that's really what I hope we all want to build now, the parallel holy community. It's brilliant. It's so brilliant. That's what we do. Don't get confused in the theology, please. Don't get too high in the sky with the theology. Build the parallel holy community. That's my vision. That's my personal opinion of the mission going forward.
I really love your talk. We just mentioned it, but like, there's so much effort wasted in criticizing what's wrong. It takes so much mental energy and emotional energy. We try to analyze all the problems and why things are the way they are and it's so bad. And I feel like it's so on display on social media, like just vomiting stuff. But Mike and I had this conversation like a couple months ago. It's like, if you could just invest that energy that you're pushing back with, and I love this phrase, what you resist persists. The more you push on something, the harder it's going to push back at you. But if instead of trying so hard to prove that they're wrong and resist, instead you put that energy into creating something that brings God joy and that inspires you, then it's like, that doesn't have to limit you. All these other things don't have to limit you at all, actually.
I think there was a story of a woman who, she's like a coach and a mentor to people. She's a really brilliant woman, super high IQ and just insane at the top of the banking world and all this stuff. She was coaching some people, her friend, and her friend was addicted to news, which is easy to do, addicted to news. And she tried to get off of this addiction, and then they made an agreement. She's like, look, you're going to stop news, and for every amount of time you would have done news, I want you to go do something a project that you actually want to do. And then she asked her, what's the project? She's like, I always wanted to create my own garden. And so she was her neighbor or something, so she held her accountable, and she committed, and she did it, right? And a year later, she has a massive, beautiful organic garden in her backyard. So she has something fruitful, life-producing, tangible, because she cut off of that addiction and stopped feeding all this energy into the problems and the chaos going around. Yeah. Kind of a cool lesson for us all, right? I've always wanted to be good at gardening and stuff, but I tried it one time and it didn't work out so well. Yeah. I need the help, that's for sure. Any other ideas? I love my governor. I'm never leaving my governor. I love my governor. Go ahead.
Not an idea. I just want to reflect back. Like, I'm sitting here listening to you and Adonia, and what I'm realizing is you guys think like owners, and I want to put that out here before the younger second generation here. Just point that out. You know, they think like owners. second generation that become owners and think about owners, what I hear from them that sounds like an owner is, what can I do? That's how an owner thinks. What can I do? You know, where do I fit into this? And I love hearing that from second generation.
It's crazy because I heard that so many times on STF and like in my workshops and stuff, ownership and all that. And it's like very conceptual for a lot of your life. But now it's like so real.
It is real.
You know, there's a lot that goes with being an owner.
Yeah, there is.
Criticism, taking darts from people, even people you like and people you're supposed to work with, you know, your counsel or whatever, right? And man, people threatening to leave you and you're not doing it right or you're not doing it spiritual and you're wrong. And that's where your faith in God has to come in and bolster you every day. You're like, God, am I on the... Okay, you said I should do this, right? So it's a journey of there's a pain barrier to owning something. There's a massive level different level of pain in ownership. That's why we don't do it. That's why we don't. It's like, I don't want that gig. No thanks. Yeah. But I don't want to dissuade you. I think you can be great and be leaders in any field. It could be pottery. It could be marketing. We need good marketing. If anybody's is anybody a social media marketer kind of interest? Not really. We need that. I mean, you could work for the Hendricks. You could work for the Gavins in Alabama. You could help me market my design principle teaching. We need good marketers. Why are all the good marketers promoting crap? You know? And the good producers are all producing crappy music. And the only reason is because it pays better. Kanye said it so perfectly. Kanye West. He said, Satan took all the good producers. And, you know, people are like, oh, Kanye's crazy. I'm sitting there going, yep, it's true. It's true. I got stories that I shouldn't say on camera, you know, that I know that that's true. I know that that's true. So we need you guys. We need you guys. Be talented, be great, be passionate. Build the holy parallel community. Beautiful. Any other ideas, inspirations? Okay, maybe we can close with a prayer. I guess dinner might be on our horizon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike was still waiting for the order.
Okay.
10 minutes ago.
Well, we can all chat, huh? You know, about this after. But I'll close with a prayer. How about that? Heavenly Parent, Heavenly Father, dear God, thank you for this wonderful little gathering. It's really such a joy. It's been so fun. You know, where else can we get together with brothers and sisters, fellow followers and believers and children of God? Where can we get together and explore the deeper meanings of our life and the direction of our life, God? It's such a privilege. It's such an incredible opportunity. And we're so thankful that you gave us this forum, that you gave us this church center, that you gave us this opportunity, this truth. Please help us overcome all the obstacles in our hearts. When our minds become tunnel vision and small and focus on all the things that happened wrong in our life, help us widen the view and appreciate that it is an animated contest. It's a chance to overcome pain and suffering, and therefore we're going to share a victory with you, God. We're going to share the victory of overcoming our obstacles. And in so doing, you are overcoming history's obstacles. And we're going to meet in the end like a grand reunion. Please help us and guide us and love the truth and love and stick to and devote ourselves to our life's work, God. And fill us with love and passion to give us that kind of energy to do our life's work. So I pray sincerely you guide each person here in that intuition, in that path going forward in their life, and that they can reflect on anything said in this workshop in a meaningful way, help it inspire launch them into a new level of consciousness and spirituality and maturity. I pray that each and every person here can be a champion of forgiveness and persistence and resilience, a champion of creativity and passion, and really be a beacon of light unto the world and be an example. We thank you for this life. We're so grateful to participate. We're grateful to our true parents. And Jesus, please help us understand and comfort the heart of Jesus and true parents every day with our actions and our words and our thoughts. I pray these things in all our names. Bless Central Families. Adieu.
Thanks, guys.
I'm alive. That's a miracle right there.